Today, guys, we are back working on the 2021 Outback Limited that the good old Quick Lube messed up and could not change the oil on. We're going to be installing this $4 part that will make your life much easier if you own a modern Subaru, at least over the last 10, 15 years or so, and make it a lot less likely to have the issues that this one did with its oil drain plug. Now, after we do that, we're going to go ahead and replace that rear wheel hub assembly. Pretty sure it's the driver's side, but not 100% sure. We're going to have to get up in the air and check to make sure which side actually is making the noise to pinpoint it first. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into the repairs and get this thing back to the customer. So guys, as we said at the beginning of the video, one of the main issues with this problem we had with the drain plug, with the Quick Lube stripping it out, or the other Quick Lube over torquing it, or the combo of both, resulting in this mess here, is that Subaru, for whatever reason, downsized the head of their oil drain bolts. They went from a 17mm head to a 14mm head, and that is a beefy boy of a bolt to have that small of a bolt head size. So pretty easy to over torque it with how beefy this is, and you know, it's very easy to round out and tear this drain plug up if you're not paying attention and don't fully seat your socket squarely on it. Now, there is a quick, easy upgrade for this, only costing you about $5, actually $4, and I'll put a link down in the description to SubaruPartsDeals.com where you can get it yourself. Like I said, if you're a modern Subaru owner, last 10, 15 years or so, probably something you want to pick up if you're doing your own oil changes, or if not, just to have on hand just in case. And it is this is the old school 17mm headed drain bolt. As you can see, that head is much more suited for the size of that bolt, and it's gonna not round out and slip as easily as that 14. And you know, if it does, you got more meat to work with here than that old 14 head. As you can see, it's only 3mm difference, but it's a lot, and really helps out with not having issues. Now, this is an 8070162110 genuine Subaru part. We got our new Subaru crush washer on there. All we got to do now is install it to, I believe, 41 Newton meters, and put the engine oil back in it, and then we can get on to that rear hub assembly and get that noise out of this vehicle. And torque to factory spec. We're not over torquing it. We are bang on perfect. Let's get the oil in here and get to the rear wheel bearing. Now we'll just grab my favorite oil funnel. I think this thing is discontinued now. I don't even think AST offers these anymore. So I'm glad I got one when I did, because it is great and basically works on every Subaru for the last 30 years or so. Just screws in where your oil cap went. And we're gonna put 5 quarts of Subaru Genuine 020 in here. Now, I know the spec is 4.8 quarts, but 0.2 of a quart over is not gonna hurt a thing, especially with the oil change intervals in these engines and their, you know, persuasion to drink a little bit of oil. I mean, but that's every modern vehicle. I see all the videos, and I've made the videos too, talking about oil consumption issues in Subarus, and I'm like, you know, every manufacturer just about in modern time has oil consumption issues. If they don't have oil consumption issues, they have oil dilution issues due to fuel getting into the oil past the rings due to their direct fuel injection. So I'd rather burn a little bit of engine oil and have to top it up rather than have fuel getting into the oil, diluting the lubricity of a, you know, lightweight oil already, and possibly damaging the bottom end, bearings, etc. I'd much rather have to check my oil every time I get gas, which I do anyway, and adjust, than to worry about that solvent gasoline getting in there and breaking down the lubricity of my oil. So I'll take a little bit of burning, a little bit of consumption any day of the week over that as an alternative. So just about topped up here, and we're going to test a theory. Saw a lot of people in the comments before said that these modern Subarus, 2020 and newer, no longer have clear flood crank, and you can no longer prime the oil pump, the oil filter and the lubrication system on these. And I don't think that's true, but I'm gonna give it a try and see. Might be wrong. So we got our 5 quarts in there. No real need to check because we're just a little over the 4.8 spec. But once we run it and prime the filter and everything and get it on level ground, we will check it, of course, before returning it to the customer. And before I forget, we'll go ahead and top up this coolant reservoir. It was a little bit low. I have a lot of people also ask me questions about, you know, my coolant's a little low on my Subaru. You know, is there an issue? Do I have a head gasket issue? Is it burning coolant? What I found with the super coolant, and basically any coolant, is, especially if you live in a very hot climate like here in the southeast, you know, one of the main components of engine coolant is good old water. And when it gets hot enough and it sits in this reservoir, it will evaporate. So that's all it took right there to get us back to full. I'm not worried about a leak. I'm not worried about consumption. That could just be good old evaporation over the last 4 years or so. So sometimes people tend to stress out about small stuff that really doesn't matter at the end of the day, but I'd rather them be hyper vigilant, I guess, than you know, nonchalant and not care about their vehicle. So all right, we're gonna test this clear flood crank on a modern Subaru. Now, being push button start, what you need to do is you will fully depress and hold the accelerator to the floor, push the brake pedal, have the key with you, and then you should be able to push the starter button. Just push it and it'll crank and crank and crank until you push it again to stop it from cranking. And we're looking for the oil pressure light to go out as an indication that oil pressure has met the minimum, turned off, and our filter is filled and our lubrication system is primed. So let's see if clear flood mode still works on a modern Outback. And it does. Not sure why I was told it does not. Now we'll hit it again to stop cranking. We'll give it a minute, let that starter rest. Hit it again. Waiting for that oil light to go out right there. And it's out. That means our system's primed, ready to go. Foot off the brake, foot off the gas, touch the brake pedal, and start. No rattle noise on startup from the engine, nothing of that regard. We have primed the lubrication system, we have filled our oil filter, and we have also put pressurized oil to the backs of the timing chain tensioners. Now, the timing chain tensioners are tensioned off of their own preset tension, but they also get supplemental pressure from the oiling system to take up any slack. So a lot of people complain about issues with starting up their Subaru after it's set for a week or so and hearing a rattling noise for a couple of seconds at startup, and that is just slack in the timing chain until that oil pressure hits the back of that tensioner and tensions it up, takes that slack out, takes that slap out, and quiets down. So we're all good here. We'll go ahead and get started on that hub assembly, and need to get a cabin air filter ordered and sent out to the shop. So guys, before we get into the rear hub assembly and figure out exactly which side it was, I gotta talk about these jack stands for just a minute. These are from Road Tech. We saw this at SEMA. They have a battery operated floor jack, but they also have these really cool jack stands. Now, a lot of you give me a lot of grief about using jack stands out here, and I've said many times that I use jack stands out here. This is heavily compacted gravel, concrete, etc. It looks like it's just dirt, mud, what have you. But the way these jack stands are made, it's a cone all the way around, so it's got great surface area to the ground compared to a traditional jack stand that's got the 4 little points at either corner. And yes, I have had issues before in the past, you know, after a rain or whatnot, with the traditional jack stand with the 4 little feet digging in or sinking into the ground. But these from Road Tech are super cool. As you see, it's a big cone. It's got lots of surface area, lots of contact to the ground, and it just sits there perfectly. They also have an auxiliary lock right here, a lock bar that goes through, as well as a nice little twist handle that's spring loaded rather than your normal you know, flap lever that jack stands have. And they have this cool little carry handle too. So just something I wanted to point out and talk about. We're going to talk about these more in the future and talk about that battery operated jack once it gets to me. But yeah, so far really impressed. Super strong, super stout, and will be great for my efforts. So I've got a bit of a conundrum here. I have jacked the car up, I ran it in drive, took the mechanic stethoscope, listened to both of the rear hubs, and I cannot pinpoint the noise. I cannot hear anything that sounds different, odd, alarming from either one. So I might be completely wrong in chasing a rear hub noise. Now, the noise I heard was not a typical like low roaring noise you'd hear from a wheel bearing or a hub bearing assembly. It was kind of a high-pitched noise that increased with vehicle speed. So I might be hearing radio interference or radio feedback. I might be completely off base chasing a hub assembly, especially on a rust-free Southern Outback that's 4 years old with 70,000 miles on it. It shouldn't be failing a hub assembly this early on. So I might be wrong in my initial impressions. So what we're going to do is just clean up the hub face here, or the rotor face on either side, clean up the inside of the wheel, mount it back on there, torque it to specification, and give it back to the customer, and we will reassess, reevaluate next oil change. I don't want to go through, tear this thing down, and try to pinpoint noise in either hub assembly by hand. I have done that before, but again, remembering back, the noise was not bad as far as, you know, it definitely screamed hub bearing. It needs a wheel bearing, like you're about to lose a wheel is bad. It was just a very slight noise I thought I heard coming from the rear. Now I'm getting old and my hearing isn't what it used to be, so I might be chasing a phantom here. Owner had no inclination that there was any kind of odd noise going on, so maybe I'm just hearing things. But like I said, we're not going to go ahead and put that hub bearing assembly on here just after listening to both of the sides back here with the mechanic stethoscope, with it, you know, spinning at a pretty good speed. Just didn't hear anything. I heard a little bit of noise from the brakes, but I looked at the brakes and they are good. We got plenty of meat on these pads, no kind of grooves or issues on the rotors, other than this surface rust from it sitting a couple days. But it looks like everything's good, so we're gonna throw it back together and get it back to the customer. And you know, the moral of the story is replacing, upgrading that oil drain bolt on your modern Subarus to prevent the issues like this one had. That'll be the takeaway for this video. And we got to check out these awesome new jack stands from Road Tech. There's the part number for those of you interested, RGM JS6T. So guys, after the last clip, I took the car for a test drive once again, and no, it was definitely a hub bearing noise, but I still couldn't figure out which side it was coming from. Driving it, my ears thought it was the driver's side. Using the mechanic stethoscope, I thought it was the passenger side. Well, I just put the passenger side hub on here, test drove it again, and the sound is completely the same. So apparently my ears were right. It was the driver's side. So I'm gonna eat this hub and get another one ordered and put it on when it comes in. So unfortunately, we screw up. I screwed up and I called the wrong side. And now it's going to cost me a $180 hub, but whatever. I'll get it in, put it on the car, get it back riding down the road quiet. Everything will be great. And, you know, we got that oil change done, the drain plug issue fixed, and put the cabin air filter in there as well. So this Outback is ready to go once again as soon as that hub bearing assembly comes in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for future Subaru and tool content. I'll see you guys in the next one.